So, Zenless Zone Zero has been out for a couple of weeks, and while I was playing it, I started getting a weird sense of déjà vu. As I've continued to explore the game's world, progress the story and witness plot twists, it just seemed like I've seen this somewhere before. But where? Oh right, in the hit game Limbus company. As I play Zenless Zone Zero, I come across more and more mechanics that ever so slightly remind me of Limbus company, the greatest gacha game to ever exist. It genuinely started bothering me how MiHoYo sucks the soul out of the things that are sacred to me and many others, and turned them into yet another mass-produced anime gambling game. So I decided to spend some time pointing out these entirely coincidental similarities between the two games, and we'll see how many I can count to at the end of the video. So buckle up and let's get started. Zenless Zone Zero takes place in a city called New Eridu, which is a surviving outpost of civilization after Hollows destroyed the modern world. It's broken down into multiple districts, in each of which you can face distorted humans as well as armed personnel of different associations. Sounds familiar? Well, that's because this exact description, minus the city's name, can be applied to Limbus company as well. On top of that, both fictional cities are run by shady governments that only make the lives of the people in the city worse. The main character you play as in Zenless is a proxy, whose job it is to direct the fighters through the Hollow and give them commands, while not engaging in combat themselves. Limbus company has you play as a much more unique clock-faced director who also does not engage in combat, and instead gives out orders to a group of fighters. The only difference here is that in Limbus company, Dante, the manager, is mainly responsible for controlling the flow of combat, while exploration is led by Virgilius and Karen, while in Zenless, you have to control your team throughout all parts of the game. I guess MiHoYo just couldn't make more characters to interact with. Speaking of playable characters, the agents in Zenless Zone Zero all belong to certain factions, and can gain additional powers when put into a team with characters of the same faction or in teams with characters that use the same mechanics. And do I have to say it again? Yes, it's just like Limbus company. Characters in Limbus get identities that belong to certain groups, and using multiple characters of the same group will not only lead to natural synergy between their abilities, but also unlock access to the abilities of certain items obtained when playing mirror dungeons, making it crucial to build teams around a single faction or mechanic, so that you gain the most benefit from the items that you get. By the way, mirror dungeons are a replayable part of Limbus company, where you go through a map with branching paths, choosing a way with your most desired outcomes, and fighting bosses to progress to the next floor. On certain occasions you will be given a choice between 3 gifts, each of which belongs to a category that signifies their effect. It is possible to fuse those gifts into stronger ones by using multiple gifts, and there are hidden fusion recipes that lead to items with very powerful effects. If you know Zenless Zone Zero, you know exactly which part of the game stole this whole scheme. Hollow Zero is pretty much the mirror dungeons from Limbus, but with a lot less nuance. The general shape of every floor is fixed, as are all the boss encounters. The rest stops from Limbus are switched for small rooms between floors, that give you a chance to heal up and get resources. The Rizonia, which are the equivalent of gifts from Limbus, are fewer in number and lack unique abilities, mostly being small upgrades to certain stats or adding and revolving around small new mechanics. Even the fusion mechanic was oversimplified into an automatic resonance once you gain the necessary amount of Rizonia of the same type. On top of all this, the rewards you can get from Hollow Zero are kept for each week, so there's really no point in replaying it more than a couple times a week. Whereas mirror dungeons are a powerful tool to gain more identities, with their huge weekly bonuses and respectable loot even without said bonuses. Honestly, Hollow Zero plays out like a lesser imitation of the mirror dungeon, while yielding smaller rewards comparatively. If you couldn't tell by now, this mode is the main reason for this video's entire existence. But it does not stop here. Limbus company has a feature where you can put 12 identities of your choosing in a company that is shown on your profile. Your in-game friends can use one of those agents when clearing certain parts of the game to help them if they're struggling. It's a great system that allows new players to gain a rare agent if they don't get lucky with their gacha, or to try out a character in a real combat scenario before deciding if they want to roll for them. I guess miHoYo really liked the visual aspect of the company, but realized that giving players easy access to a strong character will cut into their profit, so even though the game features the same character display, it serves no further purpose than being able to flex your max level S-tier agents. And where do you use those characters? That's right, the story. A story of losing it all and starting at the beginning, exploring the world and battling dangerous enemies, in both games alike. Though the start of the Limbus company gives you a set premise for your journey and adds a little bit of mystery behind the player character. While in Zenless Zone Zero, your whole goal is to make your alt account as big as your main? Well, at least it's unique this time. Both games came out with 3 chapters on release, and it would be ridiculous to count that as a stolen part of the game, but I'm still going to do it. Side note, the story of Zenless so far has been incredibly boring and pointless, and honestly the first 3 cantos of Limbus weren't that great either. So I guess I'll add that to the counter. Another small mechanic is the character trust scale. In Zenless Zone Zero, you can learn more about your agents by spending time with them. Once you reach certain trust levels, you get more dialogue and facts about them, as well as a menu wallpaper as the final reward. Limbus company has implemented learning about your agents in a slightly different way. Instead of locking you into just 3 interactions per day, the game allows you to see the stories of your agents as you upgrade them to higher tiers, with the final reward being an animated art piece of their identity at update 3. With this, you can see more of your favorite identity without being chained to a mechanic with a limited amount of interactions per day. So, now that we've established that Zenless Zone Zero stole everything ever made from the holy book of Limbus company, let me show you just how much better Limbus is as a game so you can tell your friends and family at the dinner table about how miHoYo are a greedy corporation while Project Moon is a benevolent deity of the gacha game world. We'll start off with the part of the game that defines the whole genre, the gacha. Zenless Zone Zero is a game made by miHoYo, so it is expected for the game to have terrible gacha mechanics and an overall predatory monetization scheme. Some might point to the 180 free polls that advertisements for the game feature. However, those 180 polls are a result of your rewards for pretty much everything in the game, and aren't actually a free reward as one might think. Furthermore, even though 180 might look like a large number of polls, it equates to only 2 guaranteed S-rank agents, which is very little, considering that the hardest part of the game forces you to use 6 agents in total, divided into 2 teams. Creating 2 teams that are strong enough to S-rank that part of the game requires more than 2 S-rank agents, and the A-tier agents are expected to be at a high enough cinema level, which is this game's way to increase a character's power by getting multiple copies of that character. Thus, you can clearly see that the game as of right now does not feature enough rewards to comfortably make a team strong enough to complete the later parts of sheer defense. And in classic miHoYo fashion, character gacha luck isn't the only thing that's luck-based in the game. Parallel to the agents, the player is also expected to pull for W engines, this game's main equipment. S-tier engines are all tied to certain characters, which oftentimes makes the engines less useful unless you have their corresponding agent, and vice versa. General A-tier engines can be crafted, thankfully, but a free-to-play player can pretty much forget about ever upgrading their S-tier engines, if they even get any, as you simply can't get enough pulls to max out or at least meaningfully upgrade anything in this game as of right now. You thought this rant would stop here? You must be new to this developer then, as there is yet another luck-based part of your team, and that is the drive disc mechanic. If you've ever played Genshin, you'll recognize this very quickly, as it is miHoYo's signature way of forcing players to spend more time in the game. Every character needs a total of 6 discs, and each of those discs has 4 random stat bonuses that they provide. Depending on the disc's position, it can also grant a random main stat, meaning that getting a disc in a certain slot with a certain main stat and certain bonus stats is pretty much impossible. There are ways to guarantee that at least part of the luck is eliminated in the process. You can spend twice the amount of currency on pulls to get discs in certain positions, and you can use an item to guarantee the disk's main stat as well. However, the appearances of this item are few and far between, while once again you need to max out 36 disks to stand a chance in Shiyu defense. All of these systems make Zenless Zone Zero a typical miHoYo lagfest, with lots of meaningless grinding to even try to beat the TOEFL content. This poses a large problem, where the lack of character options and the abundance of luck create a system where losing an encounter comes down to how lucky you got with your rolls, and not your skill or ability to make a strong team. Now it's Limbus Company's turn. The game features a different way of obtaining characters without luck. Instead of the pity system, you get a crafting system. Every time you pull a character that you already have, you will be granted their ego shards, the currency used to craft more agents. This allows for more control over your rewards, as with the pity system you only guarantee the rank of the character, while crafting makes it possible to get any identity, provided you use the shards of the corresponding sinner. What makes Limbus Company's crafting so good, however, is the fact that the crafting materials are pretty much infinite. You can get more ego shards from crates, and you get crates in many of the game's events, as well as from the Limbus Pass rewards after you clear the last level. The best way to farm characters though is the Mirror Dungeon. Every week you get a bonus for clearing the dungeon, which consists of a large amount of lunacy, the in-game currency used for pulling, and Limbus Pass experience, which turns into ego shard crates after you clear the pass. By combining the two, as well as borrowing a character from a friend, it's pretty easy to create a strong team that will clear all parts of the game without great difficulties. I'd say that the equivalent for Shiyu defense in Limbus is the Refraction Railway. Whenever a line of the railway is opened, it's recommended you take it on with the highest possible levels and upties, so it is considered the hardest part of the game. Making a team of a high enough level to get all the rewards of Refraction Railways isn't exactly a difficult task. After playing through the game's story mode and clearing a couple mirror dungeons, you should have enough resources to make a good team and beat the railway with the additional bonuses. Another aspect of Limbus Company that outdoes Zenless Zone Zero is, in my opinion, the artistic direction. I've seen a fair share of people praise the music and visuals of Zenless as if they're not the same thing that miHoYo have been feeding their players since Genshin. I don't necessarily dislike the music or the art style, however, while the soundtrack fits well during the combat phase, and is overall catchy, I can't help but call it a bit generic and repetitive. It's always a banger up until you hear the song for the third time and you start looking for something else to fill your hearing. The character designs are cluttered as usual and they're far too horny for my liking. I can excuse Rina having a chest twice the size of her head, but the character preview poses need to go. You can't take some of the female characters seriously half of the time, because they lack identity in their design, and are half naked or cater to people's fetishes. I'm not against sexually suggestive designs, but it's just silly to try to make the characters relatable while they're dressed as gunner bait all the time. On the other hand, while most of the time Limbus Company's soundtrack is also fairly generic gaming tracks, it does have an ace in the hole in Melee and their incredible ability to portray emotion in the songs that they compose. I mean, just listen to this. I think this speaks for itself. In terms of artistic direction, I personally enjoy the unique nature of Limbus Company's art style. Sure, the game might lack fluid animations and visual effects that come with the $100 million budget that Limbus doesn't have. but unlike a lot of the mass-produced anime gacha games, Limbus company has an entirely unique art style that you can't mistake after seeing it once. The character designs are good as well. The slightly more realistic approach that Project Moon has for Limbus character designs allows characters to be recognizable and often stylish without filling the whole outfit with needless details. Well, this video turned from a comparison of similarities to straight up Zenless Zone Zero slander, but I still hope you enjoyed it. If you're a die-hard MiHoYo fan, don't hesitate to type up an essay in the comments on how your favorite game studio isn't milking the genre for all it's got. And if you've watched the video till the end and haven't tried out Limbus yet, you should definitely do that. On this note, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time I have an opinion. Goodbye.